Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. Yeah, 71 on the beat, oh. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. The way that you look from across the room got me love high, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you got me love high, yeah. I might die, yeah. Overdose tonight, yeah. I'm not popping pills, but you got me feeling upside down. Every time I look at you, I just seem to drown in your eyes. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. The way that you look from across the room got me love high, yeah. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. It got me love high, yeah. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. The way that you look from across the room got me love high, yeah. It got me love high, yeah. Yeah, it got me love high, yeah. It got me love high, it got me love high, it got me love high, yeah. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. The way that you look from across the room got me love high, yeah. Let me get a feel for you, let me catch a vibe, yeah. I've been sipping Mountain Dew and drinking Sprite, yeah. It got me love high, yeah. 7, 3, 1. Don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. Don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied like you do all the time. Yeah, yeah, don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied, kinda like you do all the time. And that's just how I feel. I've been moving on, I'm looking for something real. You tried to break me down, didn't know I'm made of steel. And that's what you do, baby. You steal, you take people's hearts and like bananas, you just peel away the pages. I'm a book been closed for ages. You don't listen to what I'm saying, but baby, just take a minute, ain't long. Listen to the song like don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied like you do all the time. Yeah, yeah, don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied, kinda like you do all the time. Don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied like you do all the time. Yeah, yeah, don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied, kinda like you do all the time. Don't let me down like in the passing, baby. After last time you said that we would last. I guess you lied like you do all the time. Yeah, yeah. Seven, 3, one on the beat. Baby, I just started rapping and get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, I just started rapping and get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Yeah, 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 yeah. Baby, I just started rapping and get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Yeah, 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 yeah. Baby, I just started rapping and get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get off of me. Watch how you talk to me. Look at all this broccoli. I do it opposite. I got a lot of opposite. They know I'm the prophecy. They can't get them up off of me. Haters got a policy. They just see what they want to see. And that's me failing. John Cena can't see me bailing. Yeah, feel like a rock star. Popping off like a pop star. Don't care what the odds are. I'm blowing up and I'm going far. Yeah, 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 baby, I just started rapping to get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get on me. I'ma top the charts and take your girl like what it do. And that's how I've been feeling, could care less.
Yo, what is up, guys? Anyone who's here at the stream, welcome. I'm actually gonna turn down the game music a little bit. Alright, that should be better. Oh, you can't hear the game though. There you go. Alright, so I didn't realize that it saved your progress, so it's time to play some Dead Ops Arcade. I didn't know it saved your progress, so that's new, because in the old one, if you left, you had to start all over again. I'm not too far away from leveling up to 100 and something in the prestige. We've already seen the long intro. Sorry, my hand hurts. Ooh. Oh. Maybe it doesn't. I don't remember.
Touch a stone. Oh. Dare you face your destiny? Such very lucky. Fortune smiles upon you.
Oh, yeah.
You have been judged. Your fate has been decided. Underboss battle!
You see, like, it basically automatically throws you right into something. What? Okay, that was weird. Do keep in mind that I cannot play very good because I'm also basically disabled. So hard to maneuver because, like, I have such a fucked up hand right now. I'm not gonna be able to play. I think I'm actually not gonna be able to do this game. Oh, I can't move. like health of this guy. I tried to fight this person once and it was fucking terrible. Because even though you don't have to fucking reload, fighting him or her, I don't even know, is hell on earth. Especially because I can't tell if there's a weak point. Why is it time to go? Oh, I'm on the 8th. Oh. Really? You gonna safeguard like that? Bitch, get out my way. I'm Gorilla the Willa. Orangutan, bring it on my chest. Aw, come on. I don't even know the way out. Duke. Oh, and I don't have a key. So I practically did all that for nothing. How? The barrels. Get me up. Yes. Big one.
Less about you, dude. Baby, baby. I just started rapping to get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get off of me. Baby, I just started rapping to get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get off of me. I'ma top the charts and take your girl like what it do. And that's how I've been feeling. Could care less about you, dude. Baby, I just started rapping to get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get off of me. Baby, I just started rapping to get my bands up. Now I'm in LA, I'm with the gang. If you hate, we can throw them hands up. Baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Said, baby, get your bands up before you talk to me. Get off of me. Yo, tripping and dripping and slipping. I'm tripping and dripping and dripping and slipping. I'm tripping and dripping and dripping and slipping on y'all. Yo, whoa, yeah, 71 on the beat. Oh, yeah. Let me switch it up on you. Like, let me switch it up on you. Let me get a vibe, yeah. Let me get a vibe, yeah. What you doing tonight, yeah? What you doing tonight? You hit a layup, I'm blocking it. You drop the addy, we flocking it. Hop in the car, I'm not parking it. I might just sit in it just for a little bit. This ain't no hissy fit, you not gon' get a split if you just gonna quit. And these wannabes don't know, to make it real big, you gotta stay on going. That's some real talk, don't cap if you a pro. And I'm a pro, I've been doing this since before you was born. Now they let me in, and all goes to show that fame's about money and not about dough. Cause money gon' pay for how you getting dough. And that's what I learned, I had to let some people go. Cause fake people seem real right until they fold. And real people flating you when you gon' roll. And if you just a hater, then you just a troll. Go live by your bridge and leave us all alone. Cause three brothers scuff is full of holy goats. It's me, it's Brady and pineapple sauce. Hayden and Evan and Antonio. In the beginning and they never folded. They never folded. They never folded. So now let's go beast mode. I'ma make a 3-pointer free throws. Cause my wrist froze on a dime piece. She got smelly toes. And a belly butt piercing where her belly goes. They say that's too much, but I just clutched in a fourth quarter rap game. I've been Mountain Dew, but I need a new rap name. Wait, yeah, the song flame. I've been in my own lane. Now they see me flexing with 100K gold chains. Look at all the ice in my wrist veins. Switch lanes, swerving in the pilot, call me 4K HD. Got my degree for being on beat. Switch rhymes, I've been on my grind since Fortnite. All night, cooking in the stew, get it just right. Bright lights, Talladega nights in the street fights. Like I had you tripping and dripping and slipping in coffins and balling like Pippen and dunking like Jordan. I don't even know why I'm going so hard. It's like somebody dissed me, it caught me off guard. Now you're scarred. They think that this hot, but this ain't even bars. I might just be hating and steal my mom's car. Pull up to McDonald's, the big golden arch. Live in Tennessee, got shotguns on the porch, and the song is too heat. Feeling like a scorch, or nah. Down in the south, grandma is Meemaw. Down in the south, we love to watch Jaws. We're obsessed with sharks and Sharknado is law. And this song is no hook cause I thought I just ball. Wish I worked in a mall with a man named Paul. Baja Blast cause I'm blasting off. Taco Bell, shout out to the bro. Cookout, Zaxby's, other one Coco's. Hope that they reach out and try to do promos. That's how I'm feeling, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I've been moving on the go. 71 on the beat, let's go. 71 on the beat, I'm too cold. 71 on the beat, A-O and Teo. I only eat ranch, yeah, no mayo. I'ma pull a skirt, drive by Draco. New neighbor, do Donkey Pedro. Ay, I got checks now, I'm flexing. Yeah, I'm toting Smith and Wessons. I got checks now, I'm flexing. Yeah, your girl, I am texting. Yo. 71 on the beat, yo. Whoa. Trippin', drippin' and slippin'. Dun, 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 dun.
Yo, 71 on the beat.
Yeah, I'm running through these bands and I can seem to put my money down. Running through these bands and I can seem to put my money down. Yeah. Yeah, I've been running through these bands and I can seem to put my money down. Pass it to the gang like they receivers for the touchdown. And now he let the haters drown. You only here cause I'm up now. I took your girl, she with me now. She said the addy, I'm sliding now. I'm sick of hearing all that bark when you don't bite. Don't make me put you down. Face down, I faced it. All you rappers basic. All your rhyme schemes are slow, old and archaic. Basically, I'm the greatest of all time. And I've been warming up, but now I'm here, I'm in my prime time. It's go time, it's my time. Not stop until I reach the skyline. Yeah, that's my goal, I'm finna reach it. 71 on the beat, I preach it. Pass the money. Yeah, I've been running through these bands and I can't seem to put my money down. Pass it to the gang like they receivers for the touchdown. And now we let the haters drown. You only here cause I'm up now. I took your girl, she with me now. She said the addy, I'm sliding now. I pass the money to the gang and they receive it. If you can't get my back, then I can't get yours neither. Loyalty go both ways, I need you to believe it. I got a fortune waiting for me, my money taller than the ceiling. But if you ain't gonna die for me, then who gon' keep it? I got people who would die for me, it ain't no secret. So if you won't live or die for me, then you won't keep it. Yeah. Yeah, I've been running through these bands and I can seem to put my money down. Pass it to the gang like they receivers for the touchdown. And now he let the haters drown. You only here cause I'm up now. I took your girl, she with me now. She said the addy, I'm sliding now. I'm sick of hearing all that bark when you don't bite. Don't make me put you down. Face down, I faced it. All you rappers basic. All your rhyme schemes are slow, old and archaic. Basically, I'm the greatest of all time. And I've been warming up, but now I'm here, I'm in my prime time. Yeah. Yeah, I've been running through these bands and I can seem to put my money down. Pass it to the gang like they receivers for the touchdown. And now he let the haters drown. You only here cause I'm up now. I took your girl, she with me now. She said the addy, I'm sliding now. Insanity, stupid vanity, but I told her keep it PG. Let's think about it, take a minute if it need be. But think about it, go out and buy a new TV. Don't think about it, total money ain't a problem. Don't think about it, talking crime and on Martin. Don't think about it, hit you with the arrow like a Martin. Just think about it, take a minute if it need be. Just think about it. Hop on this beat, Netflix, everybody out here dating.
Lights. They're obviously trying not to be heard, and although I couldn't quite tell how big they were or what they looked like, The fact they outnumber us was enough to have me straight up panicking. I shot back inside my tent, not really caring if they could hear me at that point, and immediately grabbed the survival knife that I kept stashed under my bedroll. It wasn't much in terms of something to defend myself with, as the blade was only maybe 3 inches long, but it was either that or just rely on my fists. We were then forced to watch as the dark shapes walked right up onto our campsite. Then all just stood there for a moment before my buddy finally switched on his flashlight and shined it in their direction. Instantly, this one guy was like, "Get that flashlight off me." But I got a good enough look at the group to know that they were not your average happy-go-lucky trail walkers. I then asked the group what they wanted, and they didn't answer us for a few seconds. They just sort of looked at each other in the low light before the same guy spoke up again, asking if we had any food to spare. Having packed as lightly as possible for the long trip, we only had a few extra Mountain House MRE-style meals. I remember neither of us responded at first, and I know we both had a really bad feeling that these people wanted way more than just food. But eventually, I kind of backed up in my tent and fished around for one of my MREs, which I then tossed in front of the group while still holding my survival knife tight in my hand. I think my suspicions were pretty much confirmed when one of the group just picked the food up and held on to it. You'd think that someone hungry enough to beg for food would just devour any given to them right then and there. But these guys didn't seem even remotely appreciative or in need of the food we gave them. They obviously wanted something else. After we gave them the food, I didn't think that they'd just thank us and walk away, and I was proven right on that one. The group of 4 just stood there in complete silence as the tension in the air ramped up. The silence was only broken again when my buddy asked them why they were out so late. They told us it was better to hike late at night, which is most definitely not true. Then, when we asked them why they weren't using a flashlight, they told us that they didn't need one, and that they knew the trail well enough to navigate it in the darkness. Now, on paper, this might sound like harmless, even friendly conversation, but I can promise you, the tone of the guy's voice, who was the only one who ever spoke, was definitely not friendly. It was this dry, emotionless tone, with just a hint of mischief to it, almost like the guy was enjoying the fact that he could hear anxiety in our voices. He then asked us if we had any money, and although we had a couple of bucks each on us to spend when we finished our hike, we just told them no because we knew they'd just asked to have it. The guy is then like, "You sure you don't have any money?" Then before we can even answer, one of the other shapes speaks up and asks, "You guys got any girls with you?" That one really sent a chill through me. No man has ever asked that question with innocent intentions, and it gave us both an idea of what the group were really after. After telling them no, I really wanted to just ask them to leave, but at the same time I knew doing so would be a show of complete weakness. It was basically a standoff at that point. Either we did something to actually get them to want to leave, or they might just hang around until they got tired of checking us out and got to do something we really wouldn't want them to do. But right as I can feel myself starting to literally shake with adrenaline, my buddy says something like, "So you guys don't have food, don't keep a flashlight. Do you guys even have a gun?" At the word gun, each of the shapes turns to look in the direction of my buddy's tent. They didn't say anything in response. They just looked as if waiting for my buddy to produce one. We didn't actually have a gun with us at the time, just a can of bear mace for any wild animal encounters, but that didn't stop my buddy from talking a good game. "You guys don't have a gun," he continued. "Dude, it's not safe out here without one. I hear black bears get real hungry around this time of the year, so we always make sure to come here packing. Isn't that right?" I ended up murmuring something in the affirmative just to keep up the charade. Then I listened to my buddy yammering on nervously about how he was packing a rifle and a pistol, while I had a shotgun stashed in my tent. Again, I just agreed and went along with it, and started to feel real hopeful when one of the shadowy group took the tiniest step backwards, as if they hadn't been expecting us to be armed. A few more moments of silence passed before one of the shapes who hadn't spoke yet whispered something really low to his group. I couldn't hear exactly what it was, but I can take a real good guess. But seconds later, the main guy said something like, "Well, we'd love to stay and talk, but I think we should be on our way." I breathed a huge sigh of relief at hearing that. Not literally, of course, but knowing we might have talked our way out of a very sticky situation was just a weight off my shoulders. As the group walked off, my buddy kept up the confident facade and then told them something like, "Well, that's a shame, but feel free to come back and visit during daylight tomorrow. It sure would be nice to see all your faces." "Yeah, maybe we'll do that," the guy responded, and I swear you could hear the frustration in his voice. They were obviously hoping we were just a couple of clueless hikers, which I suppose is exactly what we were, and that they were planning on either robbing us, beating us, or something bad like that. And they couldn't risk it if we had guns, though, and they knew it. Even if they had ones themselves, they must have been relying on the prospect of us being unarmed, scared, and helpless. You know, as they say, have a monopoly on violence. As soon as they were out of sight, we got to packing up our camp as quickly and quietly as we could. At one point, I remember whispering to my buddy about how they might still be watching or listening to us, and this was his cue to start bluffing again. He started talking loudly about how much ammo we had left, how I should be careful with that shotgun as we were packing up. He even threw out, "Those guys were lucky I didn't just light them up as soon as they walked into camp. I don't know what the hell they were thinking rolling up in the middle of the night like that." I definitely felt a little more nervous at how seemingly confrontational he was being, but if it gave us a fighting chance of getting out of there without having to fight, it was good enough for me. To this day, what happened that night remains the creepiest, most unnerving thing that's ever happened to me on a hiking trip, and I've been on so many that I've literally lost count at this point. I'll always bring a gun with me these days, whenever I'm able to anyway, because, God forbid, if anything like that ever happens again, I don't want to have to bluff about being able to protect myself. I've had a stalker for about 4 years. He was never aggressive or sent me proper threats, so stubborn as I am, I did my best to ignore him and not give him the satisfaction of showing him any fear. To be honest, after a while I also wasn't scared anymore since he almost never came close to me. I know being stalked can affect people severely even in a case like mine, and that's totally valid, but I guess I just got lucky and was never really psychologically affected by it. His stalking behavior mostly just consisted of sending me letters and gifts, such as photos of my own apartment building from the outside, things he dug out of my trash can, and so on. I called the police many times, but they weren't able to, or really tried, to be honest, to catch or identify him. About 3 weeks ago, I discovered the German version of r/IMA and thought that people might want to know about what it's like having a stalker. Since I barely use any social media aside from Reddit and have no personally identifying information here, I didn't think that he'd ever see it. One person even asked, "Doesn't he know you're putting him on blast on Reddit?" And I answered, maybe. Maybe it would make him angry. Maybe he'd be turned on. I don't know. Don't care. Well, I know the real answer now. He did see it, and he did not like it. Like I said, he was never aggressive and never came close to me. The closest I know of was when he sent me a picture of myself unlocking my apartment door, taken from the corner of my steps above. Sorry if that doesn't make sense, I'll continue to explain here, but I consider myself a pretty vigilant person, and I'm thinking that he might have hid a camera there instead of being there to take the photo himself. I think I would have noticed him if he did. I don't know how he got wind of the AMA, but he did. The next week was quiet. No letters, and I didn't see him anywhere. Then he left me letters with printed out questions and my questions from the AMA. He also left me a long, hateful letter towards my boyfriend about an issue I had posted on the German version of AITA. His letters were never hateful like that, though he never seemed happy with my boyfriend. He wrote about how I should share the spotlight with him since I got so much attention thanks to him. A few days later, I got a gift, but this time he didn't leave it in my mailbox or at my car like he usually did. No. This time, he left it inside the apartment building right in front of my door. I didn't take it inside my apartment, but opened it up outside. It was a pretty big box, which was also unusual, and it was taped shut. As I'm typing it out, I realized that it wasn't a good idea at all, and could have ended really badly for me, but lucky he didn't send me a bomb or anything. He did, however, send me several zip ties, a roll of tape, the kind you use to tape off walls when painting, nothing you could use to restrain someone, a TV remote with most buttons picked off, a pack of Band-Aids with a few used ones, not actually, just made to look like that way according to the police, and a framed picture of me. I could tell the picture was taken a few days ago and my boyfriend was next to me but cut out the photo. The frame was shattered and the package was full of glass shards, clearly more than just what could have fallen out of the frame, and they were also intentionally put inside the crumpled newspaper that was stuffed in there to keep it all in place. I called the police right away and gave it to them. They were more concerned this time, finally, thank God, and told me that they'd send patrol cars more frequently. He didn't show up or leave me any letters or gifts for about another week and a half. But 8 days ago, it started again. I found letters in my mailbox where he wrote about how he wasted his time on me, how I haven't been appreciating his effort, how he was wrong about me being special. 5 days ago, I left my apartment in the morning and I heard a crunch sound as I stepped on my doormat. He put broken glass under it in the night. I went off to work because I was in a hurry and was just going to make my boyfriend call the police, but then I found my car had also been vandalized. The sides were scratched, lights smashed, and the windshield had a phrase painted on it. "It's time soon, miss," and then my last name. I went back inside and called the cops myself. They found the same phrase on a note under the doormat. This time they really took me seriously, which might have been because I was just angry at that point, which I made very clear. If for some reason you're like me and just too stubborn to be afraid of a stalker like mine, then all of this, the letters, gifts, photos, even the glass under my doormat, are just really annoying and inconvenient. But my car was useless to me now, and the threat actually scared me. I did, however, have a dash cam in my car, and it caught everything. The police said they'd take the footage as evidence, even though the dash cam footage wasn't of high quality, and I had given them photos of him that were just as good as before, but they said it's not enough. And they told me that they'll look into it further and promised to send more patrol cars again. And then it was quiet for 2 more days. Until 2 days ago, someone rang the doorbell at just after 4 a.m. My boyfriend and I got up, but we were both hesitant, but I saw blue lights outside, and just as I got up, I heard them shouting, "This is the police. Please open the door." They told us that they were called by one of our downstairs neighbors who came home from his night shift about a few hours earlier and heard someone else enter the building after them right before they felt the door shut. My neighbors know of my situation and I asked them to make sure that they don't let strangers into the building. This neighbor then went into his own apartment and looked through the peephole. We have motion-activated lights in the stairways, so he waited to see if they turned back on, and they did. Then he saw a middle-aged man walk upstairs. Above this neighbor is only me and my boyfriend, and a single mom with 3 kids who probably won't be getting any visitors at 3 a.m., so we called the police. They came and found my stalker 1/2 floor above me on the stairs. He should have been able to see the cop cars since there's a little window up there, and they had their lights on, but he either missed them or wanted to get caught. They found a pocket knife on him, and he confessed to being my stalker right away. He's finally caught. They got him. It took 4 years, a provocative Reddit post, and one very vigilant and caring neighbor, but he's finally done. For now, at least. He's facing several charges, and I've collected every single piece of evidence over the past 4 years. I don't know what kind of outcome I can expect, but for now, I've finally got some peace. I'm a 28-year-old female and have lived in the same apartment for 4 years. My neighbors in the unit above me are a couple in their 30s who have lived there for about 3 years with no issues between us. During the past 6 months, I've noticed some changes in their behaviors. At first, it was just a few days per week. I'd hear music with heavy bass accompanied by rhythmic jumping. I assume they bought an exercise bike or something, but sometimes the jumping gets so intense that it shakes my overhead light fixtures. The jumping routine has been escalating to the point that it takes place every day, normally between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. I also noticed that they called 1-800-JUNK and got rid of a lot of nice possessions. However, I figured none of this was my business, so I kept my observations to myself. About 3 weeks ago, everything escalated. Multiple times per week, on weekdays and during working hours, it sounds like they're hosting a mini Burning Man event in their apartment. The music is so loud and clear that it sounds as if though I'm at a concert while sitting in my living room. There's clearly a lot of people involved because the jumping and stomping shakes multiple light fixtures and cabinets. The music is a mix of new age and spiritual vibes, dance beats, and a male voiceover giving weird instructions like rebrand yourself, surrender yourself, stomp stomp in response. I've taken audio recordings on my phone and one video from the hallway during these events, and I still didn't complain to the building, but I wanted evidence in case it became a regular thing. This week, I've encountered a big problem. The couple above me has a private patio which is directly above my bedroom. I came home from a 3-day trip out of town yesterday and my ceiling is legitimately collapsing in one corner. Big chunks of plaster had fallen to the ground and I saw a little water. I immediately called my superintendent since I don't want to be buried alive by ceiling rubble if it gives out. When he came to check it out, he was shocked and livid. He said that the woman in the couple appears to be working with some people doing workshops or something. He can see their patio from his apartment window and has watched the group do these dancing and jumping and dirt rituals out there on a weekly basis. He said they all dance and jump to the music and then spread dirt, along with something else, he doesn't know what it is, across the patio on a weekly basis. He believes that the dirt, or this unknown substance combination, is getting through the wooden cracks, absorbing water, and weighing down my ceiling. In order to fix my problem, my super has said that he had to go talk to the woman, check out their patio, and ultimately hire a contractor to pull up the wood to scrape out whatever the hell is causing my ceiling to fall. I could hear them talking from my room, and the woman sounded distraught and defensive. When my super left, he called me and warned me that she might try to come down to my apartment and demand to see the damage, but don't let her in. This was a little concerning to me. Is she a threat? The damage is real, I wouldn't mind showing her. She started playing her music again relatively loud, kind of like a warning shot. I mentioned the music and jumping to the super and said that I had audio recordings, and he started begging me to send the evidence to the front office. It sounds like he wants them evicted. I said, okay, sure. I hate to be a rat, but if I had to choose sides, I'd side with the building that dictates my annual rent price. And he called me twice more that afternoon to confirm that I'd shared my evidence, and I said yes. Shortly after everything went down, I left my apartment to run an errand. The woman was outside just standing on the sidewalk and stared at me the whole time as I walked by. I ignored her. This isn't my fault. Now today, I went to run another quick errand in the neighborhood, and when I returned, the couple was again standing on the sidewalk, both of them this time, and they followed me into the building and then waited until I was opening my apartment door to confront me. They were both wearing creepy fake smiles. The woman has horse girl hair down to her waist and started interrogating me. They asked, "Is your ceiling really collapsing? When did it start? Do you think it was related to the recent rainfall? Because our patio is just fine." I was a little uncomfortable. Were they waiting for me outside? How did they know that I even left the building? Why were they both standing there? I've literally never seen them enter together in their 3 years of living here. But I have nothing to hide, so I confirmed the damage is pretty bad. I just don't want it to fall during the winter. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but hopefully the work will be done quickly for everyone's sake. They seemed satisfied enough, so I said for them to have a good day and shut my door. I'm getting the sense that they're nervous about what the contractors will find when they tear open their patio. I mean, what the F is up with the dirt rituals? Who are these people that she's working with? I don't know what they look like or why they're available to stomp around on weekdays. The repair work has started on both sides, but the contractors will come on Wednesday for the grand reveal of what's under the patio that's making my ceiling collapse. In the meantime, I feel like I need to be alert and keep my eyes out for these people, as well as the couple. It's unusual for me to see them in general, especially twice in 2 days. They seem scared and in denial of the problem. They also literally ambushed me, and hopefully it's over soon. My only question is, do I live below a cult leader? And did I just anger them? Update. The contractors came today and reported that there was, in fact, dirt and sludge visible below the neighbor's patio. However, thanks to the help of my internet sleuthing friend, I've gained a lot more insight into the realm that dwells above me. As one Redditor suggested, and nice work, my neighbor is affiliated with multiple ecstatic dance communities, both international and local. The international group has planned events during which all cells of the organization host dance sessions simultaneously. It also has a YouTube channel that streams psytrance music 24/7. I've listened to a portion of it, and a female voiceover declared, "You are becoming the game master." Meanwhile, the local groups seem to be more exclusive and more radical in their mindset. One of the local groups, hosted by my neighbor's good friend, conducts 3-day events that cost upwards of $400 for admission. Participation in all 3 days is mandatory. I get the impression they all sleep in the studio space, and the event description mentions that it begins with a ritual. The last and darkest affiliation that I've confirmed via social media footprints is that my neighbor and a few members of the local communities are also involved with some compassionate death groups. There's no way for me to verify at this time if these affiliations overlap in a meaningful way, so I will simply state the facts that I have evidence to prove. My super asked me about the jumping again when I saw him today. He remains eager to act. He agreed with my new game plan to wait for another large event to happen and then call him to check on my dishwasher so he can intervene. So for now, the ways in which the puzzle pieces of ecstatic dance, compassionate death, patio dirt rituals, and ceiling collapse connect will remain a mystery. I've been meaning to post this here for a while, and I wrote my first draft back in April, so it's taken a long time and a lot of therapy for me to be able to think about this experience. I've noticed how many people's stories take place over weeks, months, even years, so I'm here to tell you that mine was 12 hours in my life. I managed to block out a lot of the memories surrounding this night, but early this year I was mugged and my PTSD returned, as did a lot of the missing memories of those 12 hours. This is the first time I'm telling anyone the full story of what happened to me. I haven't told my partner, my therapist, my parents. No one knows the details. If there's anything that should be taken away from my story, it's this. Remember that you don't need to be polite to everyone you meet. In October 2018, I was age 18 in my first year at university in a big city in the UK. I had always lived in the countryside before this, so was never very street smart. About a year before I went to university, I had started a relationship with this guy, Jimmy, now my ex. It was my first real relationship and I thought the world of him, but it was not reciprocated in a loving and compassionate way. Jimmy started off as very emotionally abusive and got progressively worse, but that's a whole other story. At this point, Jimmy and I had been together just under a year and had applied to universities in the same city, mostly by coincidence, and both moved to the same city. I wanted to have a proper student life, so got accommodations in a student block on the other side of the city to him. Jimmy had been using drugs for quite a while, initially starting off just smoking weed, but this progressed rapidly, and by the time we were at uni, he was regularly doing a lot of hard drugs, plus smoking weed multiple times a day. Honestly, I don't think he was ever not high. When we moved to university, we still saw each other every couple of days, and he found a regular drug dealer, Mark, that had been using continually since we got there in September. Jimmy used to buy from Mark multiple times a week, so on a handful of occasions I had briefly met him. Mark lived a lot closer to my student accommodation than to Jimmy's, so A couple of weeks before this all happened, Jimmy had started picking up drugs from Mark when he came to see me, meaning Mark would often be outside of my accommodation. Jimmy had asked me a few times if I would pick up the drugs that he bought from Mark, but I always felt weird speaking to Mark on my own. Plus, I rarely smoked weed, so I felt very weird picking up drugs in general. 6 p.m. One day, at the end of October, Jimmy had plans to come and see me that evening and asked me again if I would pick up some weed from Mark. I was in a good mood that day and feeling more confident than usual, so for the first time I agreed to it. Jimmy gave me Mark's number and said that Mark would message me when he was on his way. Only around 10 minutes later, I got a message from Mark saying that he was nearly outside my apartment and I needed to go outside, so I did. Outside of my accommodation, there was a quieter area with a lot of benches, so I sat and waited for him. Behind me was only a wall and a small contained area that had all of the bins for the building. Out of nowhere, I felt someone's hands on my shoulders in a really weird, creepy way. I jumped, obviously, and realized that it was Mark, who I barely recognized as I had only briefly seen him a couple of times. I realized now that my back had been to the wall and the bin storage, so he must have been waiting there. I was immediately on guard because of how he touched my shoulders, especially because I didn't know him. So I shifted away from him as he sat down next to me. He began talking to me as if we were buddies, asking me 1,000,001 questions about myself, like deeply personal questions. The whole time I was deflecting, not wanting to give out any information, so I started asking him questions instead. He began a really deep monologue about himself and his life, where he openly told me that he had just gotten out of prison a few months before. It was for armed something, some kind of violent crime. I engaged his ramblings, just nodding along, but still trying to get back to the whole point of just picking up drugs for my boyfriend. 7 p.m. I've always been able to talk to anyone and was always taught to be nice when someone is talking, so I ended up sitting there for around an hour trying to get the conversation back to the reason I was there, pick up drugs for my boyfriend and go. It was so long that it actually started getting dark. This guy just kept talking. I knew my boyfriend was going to be coming over soon, so I kept looking at my phone to see if he was on his way, but he hadn't replied. Eventually, I told Mark that I needed to get back inside as I was meeting up with my boyfriend soon, and then going clubbing after with some friends, so I needed to get ready, and I could just please pick up those drugs. He then said, "Oh, well, I can't give them to you here. There's CCTV everywhere. We can go inside and I'll give them to you, okay?" I had witnessed him giving my boyfriend drugs in that same spot countless times before, so I knew this was nonsense. I didn't want Mark to come back to my apartment, so I told him that he could go into the lobby of my building where there was a disabled bathroom, and he could give them to me there. He agreed and followed me inside. He went into the bathroom. It was a very large room, so I didn't have to be too close to him, and he locked the door behind us. He then began fiddling with something in his pocket. I assumed the drugs, but instead pulled down his trousers, fully, and started peeing in the toilet. I was hugely freaked out. This guy just presented his entire self to me and began peeing. But I rationalized that there was no way that he had any sort of motive because he had just met me and my boyfriend together, so he knew that I was in a relationship. I figured that he just really needed to pee. I had kept my eyes shut the whole time, and when he flushed, I thought that he would finally give me the drugs that I was there to collect, and this whole thing had been going on for about an hour and a half by this point. He said, "I really want to roll myself a joint, but there's no space in here to do it. Can I come and roll it on your desk and then I'll give you Jimmy's stuff?" I asked again if he could just give it to me now, and he said no, saying that I was being rude for not inviting him in. By this point, I was wanting to get ready to go out with friends later that evening and knew my boyfriend would be coming by any minute, so figured that it'd be okay, even though I didn't want this. It's worth noting that I was emotionally abused by my boyfriend and knew that he would be mad at me if I didn't collect his drugs or if I annoyed Mark because he was his favorite dealer. I honestly figured that Mark was harmless, despite him telling me that he was a violent criminal, FML, and just assured myself that he was only a bit creepy and it would be fine. 8 p.m. Reluctantly, I took Mark up to my apartment, opened the door and let him in. I said that he had to roll his joint fast because I had to get ready. Finally, he gave me the drugs that my boyfriend wanted, so I felt better at that point. He walked over to my desk, moved all my things to the side, and sat down, getting out the things to roll his joint. I cannot roll a joint, but I've seen Jimmy do it countless times, so I know that it doesn't take more than a minute or so. Mark keeps trying to talk to me, but at this point my answers are getting shorter and shorter. He rolls this joint so slowly I can't even describe it. He then said, "Well, I can't smoke this outside, so is it cool if I just stay here and smoke it? It'll only take a few minutes to smoke." I said no and told him again that I had to get ready, and he replied, "It's okay. You can get ready with me here." By this point, I was over it. Messaged my boyfriend again to tell him to hurry up. Mark asked me again. In my frustration and wanting this guy out of my apartment, I just said, "Okay, sure, but be quick." I then went out of my room into the shared kitchen. I only had 2 flatmates and no one else was in the apartment that night. I grabbed some wine and a glass so that I could have some solitary pre-drinks and return to my room. I sat for another 15 minutes, being increasingly less polite, but he kept talking to me. I drank my first glass of wine pretty fast, and I just decided if Mark was going to take ages, then I would just get ready to go out with my friends. I told him that as soon as he's finished smoking that he could just leave on his own, so I left him sat at the desk, took some clothes into the bathroom, and jumped into the shower. 9 p.m. Maybe a minute or so into the shower, I heard some soft footsteps outside the door, and like a scene from a freaking horror movie, I saw the door handle slowly being pushed down. Thank God I remembered to lock the door. All of a sudden, Mark began banging on the door. I turned the shower off and just said, "Hi?" through the door, and he shouted through the door asking to let him in because he needed to pee again. I obviously said no and just got dried and dressed. Thankfully, I took clothes to the bathroom and as fast as I could. By this point, I figured that there was no way that he was going to leave my apartment until I did, so I did my makeup as fast as I physically could and messaged my friend that I'd be coming to theirs sooner than I had planned. I still hadn't got a reply from my boyfriend, so I just told him that I was going out early and not to come over. I got ready to go and told Mark that I was leaving now and he needed to come downstairs with me. He was still sat at my desk and ignored what I was saying. He asked if he could stay in my room while I was out because he was tired and wanted to take a nap. Finally, I was firm with him, and after a lot of convincing, he left with me. I made sure to order an Uber to my friend's place so that he couldn't try and walk with me, and by the time we got outside, my Uber was nearly there. He stood with me, looking over my shoulder at my phone the whole time. Then the Uber arrived. I got into it and Mark straight up walked around the other side and got in. I was in disbelief and laughed, then told the Uber driver that I didn't know who this guy was and that he wasn't getting in with me. The Uber was not as polite as me and told Mark to get out, and he did. 10 p.m. I sat there on the way to my friend's house and finally felt calm that I had gotten away from Mark. I called my friend from the Uber and told her what happened, so she said that she would come outside of her building to get me with a group of her flatmates. My friend's accommodation was not far from mine and took longer to get to by car than on foot because of the one-way system in the city, but I didn't care at this point. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes later I arrived, and my friend came over to my Uber, then brought me back to her group of friends. She had quite a few people with her, and I suddenly noticed that one of her male flatmates was talking to someone slightly away from the group. I looked over and suddenly realized that he was talking to Mark. I guess he was looking at the address when I had the Uber app opened earlier. I whispered to my friend and she freaked out and went inside with me straight away. I was super freaked out that this guy wouldn't just leave me alone. He refused to leave my side for the last few hours and now he had followed me to my friend's house. Honestly, I felt much safer now and met a few creeps in my time, so just decided to get over it by having a nice time with my friend. So we sat in her kitchen having a chat and some drinks. 11 p.m. After a while talking to her, I almost forgot about what happened just an hour ago and was getting increasingly tipsy from the wine. The kitchen door opened and her male flatmate comes inside announcing that he invited a guy in who had given him free weed. And you guessed it, Mark walked in. Mark addressed me by name and walked over, putting his hands around my waist from behind. I get pretty confident when I drink, so I had no problem pushing him off of me, announcing to everyone in a jokey way, "Yeah, this is the guy who's been following me around all evening." Don't even know him. Even in this room with all of my friends' flatmates, I still didn't feel safe. And he stayed away from me, looking at me for a while from the other side of the kitchen, and I just ignored him. My friend could tell that I was uncomfortable, so they suggested that we go and drink in her room. Around 30 minutes after going into her room, the door slams open suddenly, and Mark is standing there. He says, "Oh, I was looking for the bathroom. Can I use yours?" My friend had an ensuite. She tells him to get the F out, and he does. I'm honestly just bored of this guy's constant presence at this point, so we decided to just go to the club early. Midnight. We grab our stuff, run past the kitchen door and outside. My friend orders us an Uber and we get in and go to the club. After a while, some of her flatmates join us, but Mark does not, thank God. The people who had been in the kitchen said that Mark left shortly after he saw me and my friend leave, but there was no sign of him now. I just try and enjoy the night, but being a poor student, I can't afford any more drinks at the club. As I begin to sober up, I realize how shaken up and creeped out the whole evening had made me, and I don't feel safe. 2 a.m. After only a couple of hours, I decided I just wanted to go home and sleep because this whole experience freaked me out. I take an Uber back, use my key card to get in my apartment building, go upstairs and into my apartment. I started getting ready for bed, put on some PJs and started taking off my makeup. All of a sudden, I hear a loud knock on my door. I had no clue who it was, but since it was still early-ish for a Friday night, I thought that my boyfriend maybe finally decided to show up. My door didn't have a peephole, so I walked to the door in my PJs, unlocked it, planning to open it a tiny bit to see who it was, and then, bam. The door flew open so fast that I was pushed backwards into my apartment and then shoved into my room, which was directly across from the front door. In my panic, I froze, then looked up only to realize that Mark was now standing in my apartment. The realization started to sink in. Mark had just forced his way into my room, and I was trapped here with him. He was visibly angry and very high. He locked the door behind him and began rambling about how I was so rude for not inviting him in with my friends, for ignoring him, for not letting him in the Uber, etc. I was terrified, so I ran over to my bed and grabbed my phone. He walked over behind me and began grabbing me, touching me as much as he could, so I shouted at him to get off. He saw my phone in my hand and immediately smiled and told me to open the camera. I was terrified, so I did as he said, and he said he wanted a picture of us together. I did as I was told and took a selfie with him when he posed with his arms around me and then kissing my cheek and my neck. He then screamed at me to unlock my phone, so I did. He made me open up my messages and send Jimmy the selfie of me and Mark sat next to each other on my bed, so I did. He waited for it to send and then grabbed my phone and put it down on the desk. He sat at my desk for the next 4 to 5 hours talking at me continually, saying how I was so rude, I needed someone to teach me some manners, how I had to do what he said because he was older than me, how Jimmy wasn't good enough for me, how I was so beautiful and how he knew that I needed to be with him. He told me that his girlfriend knew that he had been at my house that evening and now she said that he can't go home and it was all my fault. The whole time I continued bargaining with him, trying to get him to leave, but it didn't work. Occasionally I would just lie down on my bed or sit and not speak. Each time I did, he would get up and wrap his arms around me and try and spoon me, stroking my face, trying to kiss me, and trying to take my clothes off and touch me. Every time I fought him off, he would get angry again and go and sit at the desk and keep shouting. I knew that this guy had previously been in prison for some kind of violent crime, and so I didn't want to make him angry. I just sat there for hours and quietly sobbed, too scared of trying to leave because I would have had to have walked past him to get to the door. I was out of options. I didn't know if I could get out without angering him. I couldn't call the police because he had my phone, and my flatmates weren't in, so my screams meant nothing. 6 a.m. While he was sat at my desk, he kept smoking more weed or taking a line of whatever drug, so he's becoming more and more out of it. It was becoming more sleepy as he smoked more weed until I was able to speak between his ramblings, so I gently said that I was going to the bathroom. I noticed that he had his eyes partially closed and figured that I only had one chance, so I took the opportunity and grabbed my phone off the desk as fast as I could, unlocked the door, and ran out of the apartment. The only thing I will always remember is being in tears, pressing the button for the elevator to come probably about 50 times because I was so scared that he was going to come after me. As I got into the elevator, I heard him come out of my apartment, shouting my name, but the elevator doors closed as he looked at me. I was able to get downstairs and out of the building. I ran around the corner of the building in my pajamas and manically dialed the number for the police and told them what happened and that this guy had been in prison until recently, and the next thing I knew, around 5 police cars showed up. I was in such a state and called my boyfriend to tell him what happened. He was still awake and hadn't come to visit the night before because he was with a girl who is his friend, and said that now that he didn't want to come to be with me because he had some weed on him and didn't want to be near the police. I told him to get to my place now, and he reluctantly did. The aftermath. The police had to force entry to my apartment because Mark had locked himself in and barricaded the door. They arrested him, and he ended up going to prison for drug charges, but not for what he did or tried to do to me. The police said they couldn't prosecute him because I had willingly let him into my apartment earlier in the night, and he hadn't physically done anything. After I had given my statements to the police, I went back inside to see that after I had escaped, my room was trashed. Mark had thrown things around and mashed things in anger. I'm so glad that I got out when I did because I can't imagine what would have happened if I was trapped in the crossfire. I don't know what happened to Mark after that, but I moved out of that apartment a couple of months later and away from that city as soon as I could when COVID hit to make sure Mark could never find me. I actually stayed in my abusive relationship for another year or so until I realized that I was too good to put up with Jimmy's nonsense. I had such severe PTSD from the incident that I couldn't go outside for months after, which messed up the whole of my first year at university. It has taken until now for me to be able to walk around at night, and being alone in public is still really difficult. I'm well aware that the ending is very anticlimactic, and I wish that I'd been able to advocate for myself, but I just shut down emotionally afterwards. I can't get too much into the details of the assault and all that kind of stuff because honestly, thinking about it makes me want to throw up. But I realized that I was so lucky to be able to fight him off every time because, without a doubt, he wanted to hurt me. After this all happened, I started volunteering with people in prison for these types of crimes to try and prevent them from ever re-offending. I think it's my way of advocating for others because I couldn't advocate for myself. If you take one thing away from me, stop being so polite. I was raised to be nice to everyone, and I realize now that being polite worsened everything. I wish I had never been polite enough to pick up drugs for my ex, or polite enough to let Mark in my apartment when he begged. So to Mark, I hope you rot in prison. Click the join button to become a member today for exclusive content. In my late teens and early 20s, I was friends with a girl named Lucy. She was a very lonely kind of girl whose parents were, well, honestly, really bad. Her mother was verbally abusive and her father really couldn't care less about anything. Because of the lack of love in her life, Lucy searched through dating sites for love and comfort from strange men, and she was not afraid of meeting them face to face, even if they'd been chatting for only a few days. My friendship with Lucy was a strange one. I found her quite annoying sometimes, but I also felt awful for her because of her loneliness and lack of friends and love in her life. Sometimes I really didn't want to hang out with her, and some days I would accept her offer to hang out. When it was just her and I together, she was normal and okay to be around, but also very appreciative of having someone giving her attention. We had a small group of friends, and she would try to get all of us together as often as possible, and honestly, the whole group together was really quite fun. When we were all together, Lucy was very hyper, and you could just tell that she was happy to be around people who didn't insult her as much as her mother did. Suddenly, Lucy tells us that she has a boyfriend, and we were all surprised because we knew that she had met a lot of guys online, but we had never heard her say that she was dating someone. A few days later, she sets up a day for our friend group to meet Trevor. None of us were looking forward to it because we thought that he was just going to be like all the others, just some temporary boy toy. When we met him, we all felt kind of awkward. He barely spoke a word. He wouldn't look directly at any of us. Lucy would try to be funny, but he would just give her dirty looks. Needless to say, we thought that he was a weird one and could tell that he didn't care much for her. As the days went on, Lucy kept telling me how much Trevor did not like me. And this was weird because no one ever really did dislike me. I'm always polite, respectful, and I smile a lot at everyone. But for some reason, he did not like me. He kept saying that he thinks I'm using Lucy for her money. Not sure how he thought that since I paid for everything for Lucy. And to keep this piece of the story short, I think he was trying to find reasons to convince her to get rid of me. I got a terrible vibe from Trevor. He dressed like he didn't care about life, and he never smiled. He didn't shake our hands when first meeting us, and he stank of weed and really had an overall uncomfortable feeling about him. After months of Trevor trying to convince Lucy that I am a terrible friend and she should not hang out with me anymore, she started to do as he said. She would start to hide me from him. If she and I were together and he would call her on her phone, she would lie and say that I wasn't there. If she was with a group of friends, he would have her swear that I wasn't there. When he was going to be joining the group on an outing or just hanging out at her place, she would tell me that I couldn't come. Lucy will do whatever a boyfriend says just to keep pleasing him so she doesn't lose them. And now, here's where it gets scary. Lucy calls me one day and says that she wants me to come hang out at her place. I agreed. She came to pick me up, and we went to her house and watched TV for a bit. We then decided that since it's a nice day outside, that we could take her two dogs for a walk to a nearby pocket park and would later return to the house to have lunch together. While at this park, she receives a phone call. Now let me say that Lucy is not a private person whatsoever and has never ever walked away to answer a phone call until this day. She walked far enough away that she knew that I would not be able to hear anything she said. This was suspicious to me, but not enough to question it. The call ends and she begins walking towards me with a look on her face as if she was trying not to smile. She tells me, "So, I need to bring you home now." I was slightly confused as we had only been together for about an hour when we usually spend the entire day together, and she would never want me to go home, and she would even frequently beg me to sleep over to avoid being alone. So anyways, I said okay, and we walked to drop off her dogs at home, and we got into her car and off we went. About 10 minutes into the car ride, I realized that she isn't going in the direction of my house, so I questioned it. "Where are we going?" She smirked, but didn't respond. I asked again, laughing uncomfortably. "Seriously, where are we going?" She continued to smirk, but didn't want to answer. I started to realize that she was heading in the direction of where her boyfriend lived. Oh God, no. And I asked one last time, with anger in my voice, "Where are you taking me?" Her only response was bone-chilling to me. "Trevor wants to talk to you." No. No, I wasn't having any of this. I insisted and demanded that she let me out of the car, but with her evil smirk and same response, she said it again. "It's okay. He just wants to talk to you." I was furious at this point because this creepy guy who looks like he wants to kill someone, who also despised me, wanted to talk to me. Why can't he talk to me on the phone? Why do I need to go to his sketchy apartment? She absolutely refused to let me out of the car. She had the doors locked, as if I wasn't able to unlock my passenger door. I waited until she reached a red light. I grabbed her wallet from the back seat and took out her bus pass and bolted out of the car. I had no idea where I was or where the nearest bus stop was, but I was not about to let her crazy boyfriend do whatever he wanted to me. She yelled for me to get back into the car, but of course I ignored her, and she sped off furiously. I immediately blocked her number on my phone and removed her as a friend on social media, and immediately warned the group of friends not to talk to her because she's gone nuts. I've not spoken to her since that very day, and she also lost the other 5 friends in the group as well. After this situation, Lucy, I hope you're truly lonely now. For some context, I'm a 32-year-old female. This happened to me when I was about 25 or 26. I work full-time as a researcher at a university, which is where these encounters took place. I'm not a professor or anything, and because of my age at the time, I could have easily been mistaken for just another student wandering around campus.
Evan collects his best friend's belongings after he's declared dead, not being found after 7 consecutive years of search, which makes Evan find the game in his belongings, which reveals that he, alongside many others, had been overtaken by a monstrous entity who feeds on people's weaknesses and mental trauma. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. If you have any game suggestions or theories, send them my way on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers, and with that in mind, let's dive in. Leo Williams goes missing under mysterious circumstances after visiting a lakeside, who becomes officially declared dead after 7 years of relentless search for him. Ava Williams, his mother, who starts giving up hope for finding her son, gives Leo's best friend, Evan, some of his personal belongings, which she thought he would want Evan to have. As Evan packs up some boxes left over from Leo, he drives home in his truck, unboxing all of the boxes until he stumbles upon a video game labeled as the Fourth World. Not knowing anything about the game, he puts it right into his computer and starts playing a side-scroller game where he controls a game character weirdly looking similar to his friend Leo, meeting other mysterious characters in an isolated forest, who warn him about a hostile entity known as the Man in the Coat. As Evan controls the game character, reaching the Man in the Coat, the game starts glitching, breaking the computer when a horrifying face appears on the screen with a buffering bar mentioning the progress of this entity breaking through. This soon comes to an abrupt stop when the room Evan was in distorts into an unreal way, with instructions on the computer screen telling Evan to leave his room. As soon as he does so, he finds himself in a borrowed tunnel with headboards informing him of his responsibilities. They explain how Evan is now in a game where he needs to complete 4 levels infested with hostile entities, as otherwise he would face a fate worse than death. Before starting the first level, known as the Bridge, a headboard reads a quote from someone called Tom Thomas, who mentions how he was in a bad state mentally, on how he was sad crossing a bridge having dark thoughts, an allegory of how this mysterious person was unable to move on from a tragedy despite passing a bridge. More visual and auditory symbolisms reveal how this person known as Tom was finding it difficult to cope. Experiencing this harrowing experience in a surreal manner, Evan finishes this level, reaching level 2, with a headboard reading how Tom at times wished he could just close his eyes and find himself in a better place. This level incorporates a mechanic of closing his eyes to evade a dark monstrous entity, an allegory of dark thoughts and isolation. The level is a long spiral descending down in a staircase, with posters of a missing person with wide opened eyes depicting how Tom went missing suddenly, and despite how he wished to close his eyes and move on from the tragedy he suffered from, his eyes were wide open, a metaphor of how he could never move on and simply go to a better place by closing his eyes, as he was always reminded of the tragedy and saw it even more clearly. Reaching the bottom of the staircase, Evan closes his eyes and reopens them in hopes of finding himself out of this dark level, just to find himself surrounded by doors, each labeled with one of the 7 deadly sins, depicting how Tom, instead of being able to move on from his troubling past memory, found himself spiraling down into a suffocating state where he reduced into committing or feeling the 7 deadly sins as a direct result of the tragedy that he faced. Evan in here is forced to close the ever-opening entering doors to prevent the monsters of descent catch up to him and trap him in this horrifying nightmare-fueled level. Managing to do so, Evan finds himself back in the tunnel, reaching level 3, which has a headboard yet again, this time unveiling what the tragedy was that Tom couldn't move on from. Tom mentions how a divorce with his wife caused him to go into a state of depressive isolation, trying relentlessly to crawl back to his wife, with every time trying, feeling darkness crawling after him and closing in on him. This level places Evan in an oppressive environment trapped in a ventilation system, where he keeps crawling but coming across a divorce agreement file. The more he crawls, the darker it gets, with a distorted-faced entity crawling after him, depicting the darkness that was consuming Tom after his divorce and isolation. Evan manages to narrowly escape this mind-born entity, getting back to the tunnel, reaching level number 4. Another headboard reveals how Tom in fact is the notorious man in the code who designed this entire game after the divorce and the darkness he faced, finding some solitude and a way of escape, busying himself with the development of this game. However, this reveals how instead of the game helping him to move on, it allowed the darkness of his mind possess the game, trapping him in a never-ending nightmare, repeating the worst stages of his past, going through all the levels of grief and pain of losing his wife and facing isolation. Entering level number 4, known as the Fourth World, Evan meets the first character in an identical manner where he first started the game, playing it in a side-scrolling manner, who informs Evan that all of these game characters are in fact real humans who have been trapped within the game, with Evan being their only chance of escaping. This game character continues that Tom Thomas, including this game, was corrupted by the entity, seemingly a supernatural being latching itself to people who had faced trauma and extreme isolation, who transformed Tom's game into an endless loop where Tom relives his darkest time in life. The only way this world would end and free the trapped souls is to free Tom Thomas and help him move on from his darkness. The first victim, or trapped soul, is then revealed to be Barney Gray, who has been missing since 1992. The second victim is then revealed to have been Carlos Bull, being missing since 1993, last being seen buying a game, being none other than the cursed Fourth World game. The third victim is then shown to be someone called Dave Owens, who has been missing since 1994, last being seen in his bedroom, seemingly having been busy playing the game, just like Evan. And the fourth victim is then shown to be Evan's best friend, Leo Williams, who has been missing since 1995, last seen playing a game on his laptop by a lake. This reveals that the game is taking place in 2002, 7 years after Leo went missing in 1995. The game character of Leo is also seen to be the character Evan was controlling while playing the game, being the only person who could manage reaching a high level, almost encountering the man in the code before being trapped. The guiding game character reappears again, informing Evan that all these missing people have been trapped in the game, with Evan being the only person who could save them now. He further explains there's a glitch in the game where he could find a door to the real world, where he has a very short time before he's kicked back to the game again, never able to escape. Using his time in the real world, Evan could go to the place where Leo was pulled into the game, as Leo managed to go the furthest in the game, almost reaching the man in the code. Using this glitch and trick, Evan could fast forward to the highest level, possibly facing the man in the code and defeating him. As he does so, Evan reaches Leo's level, seeing him isolated in a dark spot, begging Evan to help him before he's taken by an invisible force. As Evan carries on the path, he reaches a dark lake, which is the final level, with the man in the coat emerging out of the water, acting as the final boss in a soul game. Just as Evan tries to defeat him, he realizes he's no match to him, with the man in the coat about to kill him, when an unknown force glitches the game, giving Evan some time to act. The Force informs Evan he needs to free the corrupted souls in order to free Tom and defeat the man in the code. The souls became corrupted, being the demonic entities in each level, acting as the inner demons of Tom in his past life. Evan, collecting the first orb, he finds himself in a large maze level, being level 32, known as Despair, depicting how passing the fourth level, which was initially said to be the only levels, the victim gave up on level 32, facing Despair. Evan, after some time, finds Barney Gray, who has been trapped for many years, almost giving up on hope. But with Evan's reassurance, he decides to help him in order to go back home. Collecting the second orb, seemingly orbs that have been feeding the monstrous entity, Evan finds himself in an obscured level known as Dementia, an appropriate level which Carlos Bull, the second victim, has forgotten, feeling lost, trapped in an empty void with the shadow of a gramophone. Evan, managing to find the record, he places it on the gramophone, which makes Carlos remember a happy memory in his past, which he mentions it warms his soul, helping him get freed from this void. Collecting the next orb, Evan enters level 125, entering as player number 2 just like the previous levels, a level known as Depression, appropriately set in an isolated cabin in the middle of a misty forest. In there, he finds Dave Owens, who doesn't want the company of anyone, being used to this horrible feeling which he doesn't know how to move on from. A relentless and persistent Evan keeps on staying there and offering his help, saying that things will eventually get better, which helps Dave put his trust in him, allowing himself not to be isolated anymore, being freed to help Evan in destroying the man in the code. These levels depict all these souls have been targeted and placed in levels where they had weaknesses in, with the monster feeding on their misery and pain, using their weaknesses against them, putting them in a horrible mental state that they had trouble battling. Barney having trouble with continuity and pushing forward with so many failures, being stuck in despair. Carlos being trapped in a level known as Dementia, possibly suffering from dementia and forgetfulness. And Dave suffering from isolation, placed in a level where no one could reach him. Finally, reaching an unknown level, collecting the fourth orb, this level is known as the Grandson's Safe Zone. At the end of this dark forest, Evan comes across Leo, who is sitting in front of a tombstone, asking if he has been forgotten. This reveals that Leo has always feared being forgotten and lonely, a way this monstrous entity used to trap Leo in his mind, using the darkness of his mind, putting him in front of a representation of his death, being a tombstone of him. As Evan mentions how he never forgot about Leo, Leo lights up with joy, deciding to help Evan in his quest taking down this demonic entity. Using all of these orbs representing each corrupted soul, they attack the monster, being freed from their own darkness in their respective minds, freeing the final soul, Tom Thomas, who thanks Evan for finally freeing him and destroying the corruption. Tom frees all of the trapped souls and sends them to their homes, telling Evan that now that the corruption has been destroyed, he can finally rest in peace in his creation, the game, where he found joy and happiness in his darkest time. With that, all the souls go back to their respective homes, with a newspaper article revealing how Leo has been found alive after being missing for 7 years. And that's it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Star. Until the next video, have a fantastic day. The protagonist of the story moves to a new city in hopes of living a better life, moving past her previous trauma, adopting a new name to completely forget about her past and build new memories. Unlucky for the protagonist, however, she moves into one of the cities that has been having multiple disappearances recently, placing the protagonist in the middle of it all, confronting the killer being a familiar face from her past. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. If you have any game suggestions or theories, make sure to send them my way.